Hello all, I am Matt with the Volstead here for National Honeybee Day. We're doing a virtual workshop for the Bee Friends Farm Honeybee Festival. So what that means is I'm going to be going through two fun cocktails, one being a classic, one is a re-edition of a classic, and we're going to work through them so you can make them at the leisure of your own home using nothing but fresh local ingredients, also using fresh local spirits from here in Jacksonville. Going into a little bit more, the Volstead that I'm representing is a kind of a speakeasy whiskey bar that we've been here for 6.5 years, going on 7 come December. We focused on the classics as well as revamping them to make them our own. We've been a part of the downtown area for this whole time, which is we're showcasing in our immediate area close to us is Manifest Distillery, which is right down the road from us, as well as the new one, which is Burlock and Barrel, which is also right down the road. So we'll jump right into it, and we're going to be doing a Bees Kness using the Manifest Gin and Bee Friends Farm Honey. And then we're going to be doing a Whiskey Rita, which is a playoff of a Margarita, but instead of tequila, we're using whiskey. And in this case, a really fun whiskey because it's a jalapeno honey infused whiskey using the Bee Friends Farm whiskey honey in there to flavor that. So, jumping into what we're going to be using to build the cocktails with, it's easy setup to have at home. We're just going to be using a basic set of tins. Got a big tin, little tin, goes into each other. Other than that, strainer to strain out the ice and anything else we put in there, so just the liquid comes out. And then going to be using a jigger to measure with. This is for measuring your liquids. Comes in many shapes and sizes. This has a couple of different degrees of measurements inside. This big side is 2 ounces, little side is 1, and there's a couple of indentations in there to like go to ½ ounce, ¼ ounce, all those different measurements. Also just have a juicer that we're going to be using for our citrus. We're going to be juicing lemon juice, lime juice. It's better to use fresh things. Anytime using store-bought juice, they're not usually fresh and they don't taste nearly as good. It's very easy just to use fresh citrus. And then just have a basic common knife, vegetable peeler, and a little beaker I'm going to use just for mixing. I'll get into that once we get there. But yeah, we'll jump right into the Bees Kness, which is a really cool old classic that super simple and one of my favorites because it really contains just 3 ingredients. And it really showcases the honey and the gin that you choose to use in it. We're using Manifest Gin today, which is a very favorite gin to use in the bartending game because it's a really perfectly in the middle between botanical, citrus, and juniper heavy, which is juniper is that pine taste that you get in gin that a lot of people are familiar with. That's what gin usually tastes like. But this does a really good job of showcasing more than just the juniper, but there's lots of other botanicals, floral, and a little bit of citrus involved, so it makes for an all-around really great cocktail. Before we start, we're going to juice some lemon, and by some previous calculations, a normal-sized lemon and a decent-sized lime usually yields about 1 ounce of juice. So for this cocktail, we're going to only be using 3/4 of an ounce. So typically amounts to juicing 1 lemon. And I'm going to first juice it into just a pint glass, and then I'll measure it out afterwards. I'm going to go ahead and do a second just to make sure I have enough. You don't have to have this fancy of a juicer. This one just works well under pressure and high volume. Any juicer will work. Now that I've juiced that, I will briefly talk about making a syrup instead of using straight honey. This helps out because using straight honey in a cocktail is a little difficult because of measuring. Usually when you're measuring it out, straight honey tends to stick a lot in whatever you're measuring with, so it makes it a little bit easier to turn into a syrup, which is just mixing it with warm water. Usually you can make a simple syrup by doing equal parts sugar to water. Honey's a little bit different because there's already a little bit of liquid involved, so I usually do 1 part honey, 1/2 part water. So I'm just gonna go pour this into my beaker, and I'm gonna go to an ounce here, and then I can just pour in 1/2 ounce to a little bit of an ounce of water, and just gonna mix this up. This just makes it easier to deal with when you're making a cocktail. And with this particular cocktail, I'm using the wildflower honey from Bee Friends, which is a really great addition to this guy. Alright, boom. Now I've got all these 3 components. I'm going to use my trusty jigger. I'm going to do a 2 ounces of the Manifest Gin. And then 3/4 of an ounce each of the honey syrup and the lemon juice. So now that comes out nice and smooth, very easy to measure. And our fresh lemon juice. And that's really it for this cocktail, which is the best part about it. I've got some ice down here. Any ice will do, just regular ice from your freezer. One little tip I like to go over when putting these 2 together, they at the end after shaking it can get stuck, and to prevent that, you can put the small side in at an angle, so that way it's all the way pressing against one side of the big side, the big ends, and that will help release it. I'll show you. You hit it with the palm of your hand real quickly, and to make sure it's locked in there, we just give it a little pop on top, and then we shake. You can hold it with 2 hands. And right when you feel the tin start to get nice and cold and start to condensate is usually when you stop. That means it's cold. This little hit there with the palm of my hand lets that pop right off so you don't spill the drink everywhere. We are going to be using a coupe glass to pour this into, which is an old school champagne glass, which very elegant looking and very fun to drink out of. They're best to be kept cold. If you have like room in your freezer, throw it in your freezer before you serve the drink. That way it keeps the drink a little bit colder than usual because it is very thin glass. But we're just going to strain into the coupe. And to finish it off, we're going to take one of our lemons and our vegetable peeler, get a nice big fat lemon peel off of it. And to get everything out of this lemon, we're going to actually squeeze it on top of it, which is going to release all of the oils. It's going to literally spray right on top of the drink. And that's when you ever go up to take your first sip, you're going to get a big whiff of that fresh lemon scent, and then a little rim around the edge to finish her off, give it a little twist, and then pop her in, and boom, that is a Bees Kness. And cheers. Boom. Alright, and that was the Bees Kness. Beautiful looking cocktail, very delicious. It's easy because it's gin, honey, and lemon. You can't get any easier than that. And especially with this hot summer and continuing on to a hot fall, that's a really great, refreshing drink. Really showcases the gin and the honey playing together beautifully. Cool, then we can move right along to our second cocktail, which is a Whiskey Rita. Fun using whiskey in place of tequila in this. Not many, I haven't seen too many versions of this out there. This works very well because it's got a little bit of jalapeno and a little bit of sweetness coming naturally or out of this whiskey, so that's going to provide a lot of flavor added to this margarita. In place of agave, we're going to just use honey again since we're already playing off of it, and you can use honey in place of a lot of sweeteners in any cocktail. Instead of just using simple syrup, just use a honey syrup, and you're going to add that extra bit of flavor coming naturally from local, so you're getting that little bit of local honey to help your immune system. I think how that works. We're going to start the same way. We're going to make another little syrup here. We're just using a orange blossom honey this time instead of the wildflower. So I'm going to do that real fast. The same process. Going to add an ounce in here, and then going to add an ounce of warm water. And it's always better to be using all fresh ingredients like this instead of buying a store-bought margarita mix. That stuff does not taste good. It's shelf stable, so it'll last you, but if you just got lime and honey, or any type of, even if you don't have honey, if you just have sugar, this is a much better alternative than using a store-bought margarita mix. Alright, so I've got the syrup made, and I'm going to juice some limes here. Same way, I think about an ounce is usually what yields out of one lime, but I'm just going to do 2 just to be sure. Very exciting part of squeezing citrus juice. Alright, so those are juiced, and one extra step, some margaritas recipes call for a orange liqueur. I personally like just to use orange in its place just because it's a more natural tasting flavor than a orange liqueur, but feel free if you have like a triple sec or Cointreau or anything like that. I just like to use the end of an orange in place of that. So we're going to build the cocktail the same way as the Bees Kness. This calls for 2 ounces of our jalapeno honey whiskey. Just going to go straight in here. Then going to use a full ounce of our lime juice, which is perfectly there. 3/4 of an ounce of the honey syrup, and then I'm just going to use this guy and squeeze right in there. And I like keeping the whole part of the orange in there because you get the flavor from the oil when you start shaking it, so that adds a little flavor pop. I'm going to add our ice. Cock to the side, firm grip, and drink. Alright, that's nice and cold. One trick I've learned along the way to get a good rim on a margarita or any type of glass that you're rimming. Most places or recipes you see will say just to use the lime, but found out using an orange works better because there's more sugar in an orange, so it grips a little bit better whenever you go to rim it. So just use an orange slice to give a good little rub around the rim. I've also made a rim here of just using straight salt. I'm using salt, black pepper, and smoked paprika. Just adds a fun little extra part of the cocktail, looks a little bit nicer, and then this just means you can kind of use anything in your spice cabinet to fancy up your rim. So we've got the coarse salt, black pepper, and smoked paprika in there, so you get this nice, pretty looking red add our ice for this guy because we're doing it on the rocks. Pour directly in. And for added effects, I'm going to give ourselves a nice lime wheel to garnish on the side. And boom, a jalapeno honey Whiskey Rita. And cheers. Delish. So that was a Whiskey Rita. Just like the Bees Kness, very simple. It only had the jalapeno honey whiskey, honey itself, lime juice, and a fancy rim. And that's something you can very easily recreate at home, especially using your bar kit. If you purchase one from us here at the Volstead, you could have worked through both of these right along with me.